doing the thing. Writing a banger tweet about how you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on yourself for not doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on other people who have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on the obstacles in the way of you doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Fantasizing about all of the adoration you'll receive once you do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how other people did the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading this essay isn't doing the thing. The only thing that is doing the thing is doing the thing.
This is like confession and atonement. It's the proper way to think about it, is you can think about what it is that you did wrong or insufficiently that led to the collapse of your plan, right? So that's the first investigation, right? And I'm not trying to be flippant about this, because sometimes people's dreams are quite realistic and they still fail catastrophically. You know, it can be brutal. You know, maybe you did make a lot of good decisions and you suddenly got ill, or someone in your family did, and everything went to hell on you. It doesn't have to be because you've done something cardinally foolish that you fail. You know, it's built into the structure of the world. It doesn't matter. You can also retreat into yourself and you can say something like, all right, I need to retool my conception of strategy, but also potentially my conception of goal. You know, maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Maybe I have to look somewhere else. What did I do that wasn't as good as it could have been? And where did I fail to look so that the probability of my failure was higher? Now, to ask that question, you have to want the answer. That's what it means to knock or to ask or to seek. This is no joke. It's like you have to want to know. And it's a very painful thing to do, because especially if you had given it your all to the degree you were able, and you have reason to be bitter, you're going to be searching for the errors that you still made. And discovering your own errors is always extremely painful. And so you have to be willing to strip yourself down. That's what humility means fundamentally. And then, but the advantage is, this is why it's so useful to listen to people. You might find out where you're stupid, and then you can stop being stupid. And so one of the reasons you confess your sins, let's say, is because you want to discover where you're insufficient. Now, it's painful. You know, it's painful to encounter an impediment in the form of someone else's opinion that might show you where you're blind and ignorant, or willfully blind even. But the advantage to that is you can rectify the error, and then as you move forward, you're stronger. So there's a gospel statement that's very relevant to this. So Christ tells his followers that if they knock, the door will open. If they ask, they'll receive. And if they seek, they'll find.
What would have had to have happened in a week for you to look back on that week with pride? Maybe stop breaking promises to yourself. When you say, I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 7 a.m. and when the option comes to hit the snooze button, don't do it. There's one win that you've got for the day. That's action. If you had a friend and every single time that you and your friend decided that you were going to go out for dinner, that friend either showed up 2 hours late or didn't show up at all, you would stop trusting that person. That is the relationship that you have with yourself.
Yeah, people only root for those who don't need to be rooted for. And so I just asked them a couple questions. I was like, who here before pledging started was like, I want to be a part of this house? The guys were like, you know, me. Okay. I'm like, okay, got it. Who here thought it was going to be easy? Who here thought it would be hard? They raised their hands. I'm like, guys, this is what hard feels like. And all of a sudden there's just like this big exhale in the room. And they're like, expectations get reset. This is normal. You wanted this thing. You expected it to be hard. Reality now matches conditions. Sorry, expectations now match conditions. This is what hard feels like. And then all of a sudden it's like they got permission to feel shitty. And by getting permission to feel shitty, they stop feeling it. And the next one is like, what if we confront it and say, like, what if they're right? Now what? Because I think a lot of effort gets put into trying to deny reality, right? Like there's this clip that I shared from Tom Bilyeu, and he was talking about how he gets made fun of for his ears being big, right? And I think it's a really good clip, because his point that he was making, because it's such a visual, easy example for people to understand. He's like, is that it's true. I do have big ears. And so that's like if they're like, you have no right to be making content. Are they right? Okay. And
yeah,
I'm still going to do it anyways. Because the thing is, like, one of the things that I had earlier on in my career was like, I didn't think I was a really good person. Like I was like, I'm not a good person.
Yeah, me
like some
too.
people are like, yeah, I just
Me
had
too.
that, right? And I had a history, whatever. And one of the things that gave me a lot of respite or relief from that kind of thought process was like, that's okay, because I can still do the things that create success and not deserve it and still get it. And that actually felt very powerful for me, because it was like, I don't have to deserve the success. I can still just do the stuff that gets it. It's like, you don't have to deserve the girl, but you can still do the things that get her. And do you deserve her when you have her? I don't know. Who knows? I hate the word deserve to begin with, right?
Yes.
But like that concept, because also I could segue into like gratitude around like, if you think you deserve it, then you don't enjoy it. But that has been super powerful for me, which is like, what if they're right? And because a lot of people just they spend so much effort trying to fight the fact that the comments might be right. This might have been a fucking terrible thumbnail.
Yep.
You know what? This might have been a boring video. This post might have been regurgitated content. This post might have been inspired too closely by someone else's post, right? What if they're right? And does it make me a piece of shit? What if it does? And I hear stats like that and I just think, man, it is so easy to win. Like that, I mean, like when I hear that, that's exactly what I think. I'm just like, man, for everyone who's like struggling to win, it's like, most of the pain that people experience is purely in their own minds. And so to your point, I think there's an interesting one between like burnout versus hard. And so like, for me, burnout is when I would define it as my output per unit of time decreases. So I can see that that's measurable, right? Now, like I can say like number of pages that I edit or the quality of the content that I create, like my output per time, like the team knows when I'm like 6 hours, 7 hours into recording something, they're like, I literally start like slumping. You're like physically, I just start like slumping and I like my cadence isn't as like, I'm just not as sharp, right? There's that versus emotional burnout, which I think people mislabel as burnout when really it's just like they don't know how to reframe reality. And so what it really is they got a comment on a post that bugged them. And like, again, it's like pulling it from the shadows. It's like, no, this stuff doesn't work. It's like, hold on. What's the one voice that actually is coming through? What is the real thing? Well, there is this comment. Okay, great. It's embarrassing to even have to say that. But when you say it, then you admit it and all of a sudden you put it in the light and the shame kind of starts to evaporate. Because then you can name it and be like, is this comment bigger than my future? Is this comment bigger than me? And one of the things that that has helped me was saying like, what's true about this? You stay in poverty until you learn the first lesson of poverty, which is 2 words, my fault. And so when I was younger, I was really angry at my parents, like many people are, right? Justified or not, doesn't really matter. I was very angry and I blamed them for the woes of my life. And I realized that when I was 19 that these people that I hated, I was giving all the power over the fact that I wasn't the person I wanted to be. And I was like, well, it's their fault. And the idea that I had actually given these people that I hated power over my success was ultimately something that made me feel sick to my stomach and was what allowed me to point the finger of blame inwards and say my fault, and then at least take ownership over the fact that sure, maybe your dad didn't hug you enough, or maybe your mom wasn't present, or whatever it is, right? It's like, and like, I said this the other day, and it'll probably piss off a lot of your audience, so, we can put our soft earphones on. If you suffered from racial inequality, if you suffered from gender inequality, if you suffered from being born in Bangladesh, if you were sexually abused your entire life, you would be completely justified in the fact that you are not achieving the things that other people who didn't have those disadvantages have achieved. And I say this as a white guy who was born in America to a doctor father. I understand that. But to the same degree, you have the opportunity that Chris nor I have, which is that you can be an inspiration to people who went through the same thing and succeeded, despite those circumstances. Because I can promise that there is somebody who has had it worse and has done it better. And I think that one single point of proof, and there's a global point of proof that you can look for sure, but you can be that very local point of proof in your community or sub-community. And I think as soon as we shed that, that's I'm a big fan of power follows the blame finger. So wherever you point the blame finger is where the power follows. And so it's if you point it at the government has the power. If you point it at your spouse and say it's their fault that I'm not in shape, it's their fault, they never let me do anything, it's well, you're giving them all the power. And so it's until you're it's my fault, it also becomes my responsibility. What is?
What if it's not your fault?
It doesn't matter. And I can't run marathons because I lost my leg at birth. And either you can just never try, or you put the metal thing on.
Act first.
Okay.
You have to lead with action, because If you are someone that deals with a crippling sense of insufficiency, your ability to discount any good thoughts you have in your mind is going to be so strong. If you try and lead with positivity first, I need to think it, wish it, believe it, and I will achieve it, your set point of negativity is going to just crush that into the ground. I'm speaking from personal experience, right? As the guy that was chronically unconfident and still has, the imposter syndrome that does creep in. You have to start with action. It needs to be, okay, what would have had to have happened in a week's time for me to look back on that week and find pride in myself? Pride's seen as something that you should be ashamed of. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. But David Goggins, I did an episode with him a couple of months ago. We can put it in the show notes if people are interested. And he said pride is something that everybody misses. That having pride in your name, your performance, the way that you show up for other people is something that you can do. But you need to do something that is worthy of being prideful about, right? What would have had to have happened in a week for you to look back on that week with pride? Okay, maybe stop breaking promises to yourself. When you say, I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 7 a.m., and when the option comes to hit the snooze button, don't do it. There's one win that you've got for the day. That's action, right? And it is just, it's tried to say the Peterson clean your room thing, but the reason that works is that you start with the smallest ever step and you expand out from there. You want to become a writer. You want to leave your job and become a writer. Okay, can you commit to writing 1 blog post on Substack per week for the next 3 weeks? That would make you feel like less of a loser if you did that. Action has to come first if you're the sort of person who is chronically unconfident, because you will drag your sense of identity behind you. Mark Manson says that identity lags behind our status by about 1 to 2 years. So for both me and you, in 2 years' time, we'll go, I understand why I was in LA that day, and look back. Start with action and make small promises to yourself that you don't break. If you had a friend and every single time that you and your friend decided that you were going to go out for dinner, that friend either showed up 2 hours late or didn't show up at all, you would stop trusting that person. That is the relationship that you have with yourself. You need to be able to trust your own word. And a lot of us don't, because life is very convenient and it is easy for people to not stick to the promises that they set themselves, because our ability to be idealistic is always going to outstrip reality's ability to deliver that to us. As soon as you posit an ideal, you then begin to compare yourself to that ideal. And true hell is when the person that you are meets the person that you could have been.
And you do it anyways. Shoot, I can't remember where it was from. But basically that the best art is art where the artist makes it for themselves, and where you see commercial work is where a bunch of people are trying to make something for an audience. And so they're trying to rinse and recycle stuff that actually solves no one's problems, because no one is actually the audience. Whereas when you make it for yourself, there's thousands of people just like you who will have the same depth of understanding of it, but it feels selfish in the moment to make something for yourself. But when you make it for yourself, you actually make it for everyone. And so I think when you're on the start path, you can't look at the outcome as the only positive, because you will never make it. And so the positive frame that I've always used is, sure, you can have the external ones of I like thinking about my first videos had 13 views. And I'm like, well, if I had an audience of 13 people, I used to spend years pitching, weight loss stuff to rooms of 13, and that was fine. And so thinking about that way was helpful. But the most helpful frame was thinking about who I was becoming as the asset that I was building. So in real time, whenever I finished a long day's work, I was becoming more like the type of person who could work for 5 years without reward. And that would be part of the story I would someday tell. And so some of the biggest reinforcers I've had in my life has been future casting the story that I would tell about the shitty period that I was in. I remember when I was sleeping on the floor at my gym because I didn't have enough money for 2 rents. And I was like, I will fucking tell this story. And when I lost everything for the first time, I have the screenshot of the bank account. When I show it, people are like, oh, look, there's that thing. But they forget that there was a person who screenshotted it to be like, this won't fucking happen again. And I think having a larger narrative of where you're ultimately going, one, gives you the vision of where you're knows where he's going, but it allows the dragons that you have to slay along the way, the hard things that you have to overcome, to feed into the larger narrative of the story that you'll someday tell. And so like no one ever tells stories about the hero who made it all happen immediately and had no hardships. No one cares, right? Like, okay, you were born to a billionaire. Is there a story there? Not really, but everyone loves the story because we can see ourselves in the character and how much we hope to be like them. And it's the being like them, not the having what they have, that we usually like. And so reframing ourselves as the hero of that narrative in my harder times was what really got me through that, and thinking, I will tell this story someday. I want to give you the single easiest razor to predict my behavior. And I said, whatever will be the most epic story is the thing that I will most likely do. And so oftentimes the most epic story is not the shortest outcome to victory. It's the long saga that results in this big thing later eventually. And I was like, if you ever want to know, if you're like, I'm not sure what he's going to do in this situation, just wonder what the most epic story to tell would be. And that's usually what I will do. And I don't know if that's self-aggrandizing, but that's genuinely my razor for even making the big decisions about, okay, I'm going to sell Gym Launch. I'm going to marry Layla. I'm going to slum it and live at the gym. I'm going to fly around and do turnarounds. I'm going to start this whole idea of a media company that just gives exclusively. But like, how do I put all these together? It's like, well, what would be the most epic story? And I thought of this idea of just like, when I think about who that story I want to tell is this billionaire that documented the entire thing the whole way and just gave. Because I always thought, I was like, I wish that Elon Musk and Warren Buffett and all these guys would have and Jeff Bezos would have just I would love to have seen 1997 Amazon content, and a lot of the content in terms of it's getting 5 views. It's like, it's okay, because when we make it, they're going to come back and watch this. So I don't need them to watch it today. I want them to know that it's here when I do. And I think that got me out of the loop of it. I have to win right now. And then every one of them is just dropping a kernel or a breadcrumb for future me to refer back to. It won't get harder. Like, this is the hardest part. And so if you can just make it through this, everything else is downhill. It's not that the things that the dragons are going to slay aren't going to get bigger. They are. But you become so much more equipped to slay them back. And you have so many more allies. You have people in the stands cheering for you. You have the audience. You have all of these other things that are behind you. But at the beginning, it's just you with a stick against a bear. And arguably that fight is a harder fight to win than beating a dragon when you have a nuclear bomb and 6 nations behind you. And so it's not even like the size of the hardship, it's just also the resources and how few of them you have, and how so much of the beginning is literally burning the one thing you have, which is time. Because you have no leverage. You don't have the money to pay other people to help you. You don't have the resources to go get someone no one can learn it for you. It's like there's a lot of the things that we care about a lot. Like, no one can work out for you. It doesn't matter how much money you have. No one can learn skills for you. And so in the early days, it feels so painful because you look around to see who can help you, and then you're like, fuck, it's me again. And I think getting comfortable with the idea that each of these things, kind of like Slumdog Millionaire, if you've seen that movie where I'll give you the TLDR. He goes through his entire life of randomness, and he gets on the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire version in India. And it has 12 questions to make $1 million. And from only 12 random experiences in his life that seemed meaningless at the time, was he able to answer all of the questions and then ultimately win. The skills that you develop along the way, like Steve Jobs learning calligraphy that then became Apple fonts that, transformed how we type. Those early days, that little trench winning in the weeds, oftentimes gives you these huge advantages later on because you have more context than anyone else. And so rather than lament them and hate the fact that you're going through it, remembering that these will be arrows that you put in the quiver that you're going to be using to slay the future bigger dragons. And so expecting it to be easy is what makes it much harder than it ever is. Because in the early days, hard was, ooh, stop. This isn't good. This is a warning sign. This is a red flag. I should slow down, or I should stop, I should pivot. But the more I think about it as a competitive landscape, as I'm clear on what this path is supposed to look like, and these rocks and these dragons are things that I'm going to have to slay along the way to get the princess or get the treasure, I get happier about the harder it is because I know that no one else will follow.
It's a selection effect.
And I think if you can shift from this is hard to no one else will be able to do this, then it flips from being this thing that you're like, oh, poor me, to, oh, poor everyone else who's going to have to fucking try.
Yeah.
And I think that is so much more motivating as a frame for the exact same circumstance. Like, the amount of times when I was on my lonely path where I was too different from the friends that I had, but not successful enough to be friends with the people that I wanted to be friends with. That's when you want people to root for you. That's when you want people to support you. Once you've already won, people are like, he's amazing, he's so good. But like, that's the time when you need it the least. And so you always have to be the person who roots for you before everyone else does. And it's usually a single clap in the auditorium for a very long period of time. It is a slow clap that's just you rooting for you. And that visual, I think, is one that you can kind of take, because it is, people struggle to do things alone. And the path of the exceptional person is one of an exception, which means that you are not with other people. And rather than fighting that or bemoaning it, see it as an indicator that you're on the right path. Because if everyone else were cheering you on, then it means you're not in the right place, because it means you're just like everyone else, and that's not where you want to be.
That's all that there is. You want to be better. That is something to be proud of. You want to leave it all on the field of play. You want to make yourself as good as you can. You want to make the world a better place. You want to have an impact. All of these things are just all positives. Paying attention has been the single greatest competitive advantage that I've had, because I pay attention to things, and I try to be precise, and I care. But also, the more that you're able to let go and not fear about stuff, the more enjoyable you'll find it. So the thing that is making you better is the thing which is making you feel pain. And this is a perennial balance. I don't think I've ever personally actually been disparaging of someone that has a 9-to-5, because I have been someone that's had a 9-to-5, albeit not for long. I did it for 6 months. But every single person that I knew growing up had a 9-to-5 or bigger, and my dad certainly did. And then coming from a super working class background, I've always felt a little bit uncomfortable with the way that 9-to-5s are disparaged. I don't think that the only way that you can enjoy your life is if you pivot and do something yourself. I think it's a very reliable route to do it, and I encourage as many people to do it as possible, but I try not to look down on people that are doing that, because it's the lion's share of most people. How to get past it if your purpose is aligned within a 9-to-5 career? It doesn't matter. I fell in love with an essay from Jason Pargin where he said, accept that all of your heroes are full of shit. Your heroes aren't gods. They're just regular people who got good at one thing by sacrificing literally everything else. And I love this insight that you can dress it up however you want. The work just needs doing. And you can fluff it, and you can change it, and you can talk about compounding. But ultimately, it comes down to sitting at the desk and answering the email, opening the Word document, recording the podcast. And one of the things that I've found is a really great hack for me, I would have no success as a YouTuber that I've had being a podcaster, because I work well when I have someone else in front of me. Like, I would clean my room at home if mum came and sat and like just watch or talk to me, right? Because I just didn't want to fucking do something that sucked on my own. Being a YouTuber and staring down the lens, hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna fucking do whatever we're gonna do. I really, really struggle with that. Roll the clock forward now. So talking about the price that people pay to be the person that you admire. Everyone would look at Tiger Woods narrowly bound, like, I want to be as good of a golfer as Tiger Woods. And you go, yeah, okay, but do you want the childhood? Do you want to spend nearly half a decade out of the sport with injury because of how hard you've pushed yourself? Do you want to struggle with self-worth to the point where you basically can't have a long-term marriage? Do you want to be chased down this driveway with your wife in a golf club? He fell asleep at the wheel. He broke both of his legs not long ago. He's been on antipsychotics. Like, that is the price that you pay to have that degree of greatness. It's a onesie, right? It's not an outfit that you can pick little different bits about. You don't get to choose one element of someone and say, I want that. It's like, no. All of these externalities, all of the things that you really don't want, they came along for the ride as well. So this guy loves playing pickleball, and he gets to turn up on a Saturday and play with his friends. And, you know, if it's cold outside, he doesn't need to go and play. And if he's tired, he doesn't need to go and play. And if he's hungover, he doesn't need to go and play. And then he decides to turn pro. And he thinks, I'm turning pro at this thing that I love. I can't wait to make what I love into my career. But he doesn't realize that, hey, guess what? If you're hungover, you still need to go and train. Or actually, no, you don't get to be hungover anymore, because the guy that isn't hungover is the guy that's training better. So you now need to stop going out with your friends, and you need to train when it's cold, and you need to work on game tape and mindset and hydration and nutrition. You need to do S&C, and you need to have a physio, and you need to not see your family as much. All of these things came along for the ride as soon as you decided to turn pro. Is that a price that you're prepared to pay? And that's an interesting question to ask yourself. Yeah. Am I prepared to sacrifice my pure, unencumbered, unmolested love for this thing in order to try and become the best at this thing? Like, I've made huge developments while I was staying up until 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, running a nightlife business. You can make huge developments in your personal growth journey while you're doing a 9-to-5. And if your purpose is aligned within a 9-to-5 career, it doesn't matter. Like, that's your thing. Just lean into it, enjoy that. And all of the guys that don't know when they're supposed to start or when they're supposed to stop, or they've got to be the taskmaster, or they don't know what they're supposed to do today, and they don't get holidays, and they don't get all of that. You don't have to worry about any of that. There are tons of advantages of having a 9-to-5. And if you're enjoying it and your purpose is aligned with it, nail the self-development on an evening time. Make sure that you lock into a hard routine, and you're going to have a great time. So I'm genuinely envious of people that have great 9-to-5s where their purpose is aligned to it, especially if they've got a lot of oversight and structure, because it takes all of the pain. I did a video ages ago. You might even be able to find it. I can't remember what it was called. Something like 10 reasons to not start your own business, or something like that. And it was about precisely this, that it's not all it's cracked up to be, to go and work for yourself. So the disparaging of 9-to-5s, I'm not on board with that. Is it possible to be world-class whilst having fun? That's the question for me this year. It may be that in order to be world-class, fun has to go out the window. And if that's the case, it'll make me sad, but it's whatever. Like, that's a price that you perhaps need to pay. But I'm really trying to do this. So what brings me joy? Hanging out with my friends, being outdoors, doing new things, visiting new places, going for good food, especially in different, like, adventure and novelty for me are very invigorating. It's also a great way to make time slow down. When people say, I can't believe how quickly this year's gone, what they mean is, I don't remember the days that have gone so far in this year. One of the best ways that you can slow this down is to add more memory units, and memory units are highly derived from how much novelty there's been. If you drive the same route to work every day for 3 years, that's basically 1,000 journeys that's condensed down into one memory, unless there's one day in particular where it was rainy and you skidded, or you were involved in a car crash, or someone gave you a phone call and told you that you got a raise or whatever. Like, you'll remember those. But because it's always the same thing, it just gets condensed down into essentially one memory. So trying to vary and add as much novelty in as possible is very good. As the world has become so comfortable, we're having to go out of our way to actively seek discomfort. We inject it into our lives. We artificially inseminate it. People, every time that you achieve something, what you're doing is positing a new minimum bar, which you have to get over, right? Fantastic. I've just done this many plays, or made this piece of art that's sold for a particular amount of money, or whatever. How exciting. And almost immediately, there is this sort of like post-coital realization that, oh my God, that's the new bar for my best performance. That's really high. That means I now need to be even better at my next thing. And someone recently won the largest lottery in history, a $1 billion lottery. Someone just won that. From a life trajectory perspective, that's potentially one of the most disastrous things that you could have happen to you. Because how are you ever going to have a better day than the day you woke up and found out that you'd won $1 billion? The argument is a slow success strategy would be to purposefully try and drag out the wins that you have. Habits are hard to break, man. And the habit of not doing things is unbelievably difficult to get past. It's one of the problems with anyone that listens to your show or my show. You will love being cerebral, right? You will love the idea that I can use cognitive horsepower to just get myself out of problems. And there is a case of learning as masturbation, right? And believing that learning about something is the same as enacting it, and it's not. That's why it has to be action first. A quote from one of my friends that he uses when he's thinking about a concept is, does this grow corn? Basically, is it useful? Tell me how I can use this in my life. does it grow fucking corn, right? It's this beautiful sounding concept, cognitive bias that helps me understand the way that my brain works and my relationship with everybody else. How do I use that in my life? Give me something to apply it to. And that's why with the confidence thing, choose promises that you will never break to yourself. I'm going to get up on time for the next month. I'm not going to hit the snooze button. If you do that and you look back in a month and you go, oh my God, that's the first time I've done that in forever, maybe. That's a big win. And you can do the James Clear thing. We'll write it on a board. We'll track it, what gets like measured, etc., etc. But the main thing is just keep promises to yourself. And that is a good way to go from, here is an insight I learned about, I want to do breathwork, cold plunge, go to the gym, fast until 12 midday, get up on time, sunlight in the eyes, and then whatever it is, right, that you want to do, turn it into a promise. Don't break the promise.
You're going to lose sleep. You'll doubt whether it'll work. You'll stress to make ends meet. You won't finish your to-do list. You'll wonder whether you made the right call and have no way to know for years. This is what hard feels like, and that's okay. Everything worth doing is hard, and the more worth doing it is, the harder it is. The greater the payoff, the greater the hardship. If it's hard, good. It means no one else will do it. More for you.
Right. And it's not just me that's got better. The world is undeniably a better place because of the sort of person that I've become. I'm a better friend, I'm a better son, I'm a better boss, I'm a better partner. I've had the fortune of reaching tens of millions of people on this podcast, and I've given TEDx talks, and I've improved the texture of my own daily existence because of the process that your work triggered. You do not know the depth of impact that your work has had. And if the option had been there, I, and probably a lot of other people, would have happily taken on our share of your suffering over the last year if it would have somehow helped as a thank you for how you've helped us. So, thank you.